There we go. Say something.
How's that? Oh, there's a... Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
I think we got sound now.
Yeah, how are we doing, Matt?
Have we mentioned we are professional?
Yes, highly professional. Wow. Look at that action 3D. Alright, yeah, that was weird. The device just dropped. Oh, because Windows updated. Yeah, and it always fucks you with all the drivers for everything. Sorry, yeah, that was a forced Windows update on this machine, so I didn't think of that. Yeah, of course that messes with things. Yes. Oh, so the thing that you saw us mouthing is that I had a conversation with Ben from Bandit Games on Monday, and so that's edited and going out tonight. And with sound, yeah, we won't have the muted version. And so they are in the middle of their Kickstarter for an offset print edition of Wicked Ones.
Nice.
And we're going to do a follow-up, hopefully. And in this interview, there was a lot of good information about how to run a Kickstarter for designers for game-focused things. But when we follow up, we'll probably go into detail about how to approach that and what designers need to look out for, and some of the tools and companies that are out there to kind of help you interface with China and all that stuff, just to make it easier. It makes it a little bit more expensive, but it takes away all of the risk, because they're the ones that are going to have to find a new source if that drops out. Yeah, they're an intermediary, but it's kind of like the placement, teacher placement stuff here. The company just guarantees a teacher, an English teacher in your Japanese public school, and so that same way that they source companies.
Oh, cool.
And you can do it all in English.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Nice. Uh-oh. Are both of us, oh yeah? Is everything still good? Yeah.
Are we getting sound?
Uh-oh. Yeah. Matt's saying it's still not sounding good. Are you? Yeah. I think we're good. Oh man, technical nightmare.
Yeah. There's no setting on this mic for the cardioid. Oh right, that's the other one.
Yeah. They don't switch. It's only cardioid. I'm hearing you. Yeah, I'm hearing you. It's you're this one, but
Right. It's plugged in.
yeah. So yeah, just you talk.
Yeah. What's that?
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Both of us are in there. Sorry, it might just be a little odd. All right. Well, we'll see how this goes. So take a look out for that tonight. We had a nice hour chat.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it's really fun. Really nice guy, and definitely both Relic, their previous Kickstarter, and this new offset print edition of Wicked Ones. Take a look at those. They're going to be beautiful. They're in slipcases with multiple volumes and everything. The artist that they're working with is amazing, and they're kind of continuing the unified look of the artwork. So, and that's nice. He said it's difficult because you're a little bit bottlenecked only using one artist, but then the final version of it is this cohesive, and also the artist participates in the world building, you know? So it's and his name is on the front cover, which is really impressive. So it's it's Ben Nielsen and the artist whose name I'm totally blanking on, who we mentioned many times in the interview. But that's really great that they're treating the look of the game with that much respect. Very good stuff. But still a couple more weeks on that, and still I think another week on Relic in the late pledge. Yeah, so if you like this and you want to see what the next thing that they're working on, and Wicked Ones is Forged in the Dark. Oh. But Relic is, because they're worried that what the changes that they're making and what Wicked Ones is almost not compatible. It's like becoming its own thing. So Relic is its own thing. They're taking what they learned with Forged in the Dark and making their own D6 system for the new game. So then that means other people that are working at Bandit Camp now have their own, like, they have their own system and mechanics to start, iterating their games off of. So pretty cool. All right, so so if we have sound, maybe we'll try to get this going. So this is premium content. That premium content you didn't hear. Just a buzz, like a line buzz for the whole time. Echoey. Weird. Yeah, I don't think that's weird. I don't think.
Or maybe like the drivers acting weird.
Yeah, it might be a weird driver thing. Yeah, because it's on this side of it, everything is the same on this side of it. It's just a Windows restart. Oh man. So let me just take a quick peek. Is there anything else? Oh, let's try this. Hello. Oh, there we go. Am I getting the right? Oh, yes.
What mic were we using?
That webcam over there.
All right, that'll explain it. Yep.
Oh, god damn. Premium content, ladies and
Have
gentlemen.
we mentioned that there's like 5 or 6 meters between
Yeah,
like the
right.
table and the screen we got to
Yeah,
look at
that's
over there to set
yeah.
things up?
And that's actually a pretty good mic if it was picking us up at all. Thank you, Matt.
Have you also
Yes.
mentioned like we're both over 40, which means to see something
Is
that's tiny, like 6
amazing,
or 7
yes.
meters away, not happening.
It's amazing. There we go. Okay, so yes, take a look at that interview that I'm not going to explain for the third time on the channel tonight. So yeah, Bandit Camp, Ben from Bandit Camp.
This will be like the one time like a talent scout is watching or something.
Yeah, right. Let's see if that
No.
this is the
Yep.
yeah, for the Ennies next year. They're like, these guys are terrible.
Or someone
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Watts who is like, let's see if they actually will sponsor that.
Yeah,
No,
right.
never mind. Yeah.
This was that time. All right, there we go. Yeah, so way too many microphones plugged into that PC, unfortunately, and they all come in as just USB,
Yeah.
USB. So
Thanks a lot.
I was just happy to have sound. Thank you, Matt. You saved our biscuits. Not only does you wield a mighty wrench, but you have
what the wrench is.
wonderful ears. Yeah, right. You're just doing repairs on the live stream the whole time. All right. Well, from that dynamic opening,
nice.
we'll continue. God damn. All right. So we'll continue on. Let's get started. Welcome to the Weekly. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Chris.
And this week on the Weekly,
Now Audible.
yes, you can hear it. So for all the live stream watchers or patrons, you had a lot of silence at the beginning there. We had a sound driver problem. All right. A new 40K tabletop RPG.
Oh.
Heroscape returns.
Oh.
The 2022 Ennies winners, and Lord of the Rings for 5e.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that one I didn't know about.
We knew that was coming.
Yep.
Yeah, so can't be surprised, but we can be disappointed. So let's start. I guess we'll start with the new 40K RPG. So
Interesting.
the license holder for it was Fantasy Flight, right? And now
That's
it's
right.
Cubicle 7. So Cubicle 7 has.
Sorry, I interrupted. I forget where Ulysses Spiel is and all of that.
Oh, they did the original version of Wrath and Glory,
Right.
and then it's now Cubicle 7. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
They may be doing like the German version and things. I think I'm not sure what happened with that, but yeah, now so all those. Right, so the 4th edition of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and
Nice.
then
Wow.
the Age of Sigmar and the 40K RPGs are being developed by Cubicle 7.
okay.
Which is it's good. It's a British studio, so I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, just to have them closer to the source,
Right,
and
okay,
it
yeah.
not Then I think the culture differences and stuff. I would worry, even though a lot of the American game studios that are doing PC games for 40K, some of them are getting the feel and everything right, but it's weird when the characters switch from, they have British accents or American accents, and you get the it's like if it stays in England for some reason, I like the feel of it a bit better. So Cubicle 7 has they won awards for their Warhammer Fantasy, their 4th edition of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. And they have a new game that they're introducing. There's not a lot of details yet, but Imperium Maledictum is
Maledictum, okay.
Yes. So this will be kind of the spiritual successor to the Black Industries games. So I think this is following up kind of a starting more low tier. Your characters start more low tier, but a Dark Heresy.
Right.
Kind of, it's similar. I think you're not playing Inquisitors.
Yep.
But you're it's going to be maybe similar in tone, is what it sounds like. So, of course, it's a D100 based.
Oh.
And you're playing in the 41st millennia, all grim, dark, and all that good stuff. So you'll take the roles of citizens of the Imperium in service of powerful patrons. So the game is focused on investigation and intrigue. That's why it made me think Dark Heresy. Okay. And also, because just Maledictum, the corruption,
Yeah,
right? And yeah, so so there'll be many factions in the game. Your investigations. So you have, because of your patron's influence, you have some power to go what you want, where you want, and do what you want. But you're going to come into conflict with other factions that are opposed to that. Your investigation proceeds based on that, and it'll determine where you can go and what resources you have access to.
I mean, your patron.
Yes, your patron. I'm sorry, your patron. Your patron will, will kind of give you access to things and allow you to investigate something for probably to serve them. Something that's serving them. So it sounds kind of, it might be interesting, and kind of the clash and kind of intrigue might work well, and especially if they flesh out some things that we haven't, and maybe we have seen in some of the fiction, but we haven't really seen before, when things are kind of working against each other in imperial cities, and how you're kind of torn between, and also you don't know who's corrupted, you don't know who's actually like being it's similar to the fantasy game, who's being corrupted by chaos, and that's why they're asking you to do these things, or that's why they've got weird choices.
My frown the whole time is I kind of got mixed feelings.
yes
Right? Okay, I like Warhammer 40K, the setting. I like it, it's cool, right? And I especially like how kind of the absence of the Emperor leads to all these different interpretations of the Emperor's will, right? Like that's how you have okay, I'm using good as a shorthand, right? Because they're not good, right? That's why you have the quote good guys, but all these different various interpretations of what that is. Like we all agree on these main points, we all kind of have different methods or whatever, and the fact that there's no one at the top going, no, it's this, leads to that, right? So I like that aspect. And the old Inquisitor game where you had I forget the 3 different factions of Inquisitors. It's like, okay, well, we're all cool, but we're all sometimes come into conflict.
Yeah.
Mixed feelings about the playing citizens.
Yeah.
Because my thing is the 40K, it's shit, right? How many Imperial Guardsmen just get tossed into the grind, right? That's why when the old game Only War came out, I'm like, how the fuck are you gonna play Imperial Guardsmen, right? It'd be one session and that's it. Your platoon is done, right?
Right.
And I kind of feel the same way about Imperial citizens, right? Yes, there are these important characters. Everyone else is fucking grist for the mill, and how else do you have all these servo skulls and gun servitors, and how many rogue psychics get fed to the Emperor every day, right? So when you're at the top, it doesn't make sense, right? But when you're at the top, you're kind of okay, I get this. We're showing how horrible war is. Then if you go down to the bottom and you're no, you're playing those little peons, you're okay, to maintain the same feel, how many of us it would have to be a Dungeon Crawl Classic funnel, in my opinion, right? That's what would maintain the feel, because otherwise, it's okay. The world isn't real, but you've kind of shattered my belief of these internal consistency rules. Where yes, we're focusing on these little people, but if all the little people get to be heroes, where does that leave everything else, right? So games like Mordheim or I forget Necromunda, right? That was kind of okay, we're a gang, we're the focus of this story, but how many of your dudes got fucking wounded beyond belief, or you had that damage tracker, or you had to replace them, and that was kind of okay, we're a unit, but individual pieces of the unit are getting replaced constantly because the world fucking sucks, right? No, so I would be curious to see how they do it. I'm, as in case you couldn't tell, kind of not turned off, but kind of that seems to go at odds with the way I picture the 40K setting.
Interesting. Yeah, I think, so you'll have some status or some power because of the patron, but you are just going to be a squishy person.
Yeah,
right. In
that's
a very,
what I was thinking. I'm an Imperial citizen. Oh, what the fuck, citizen? Get back in line, right? Get back in that, gruel line, or back... Go chain yourself back to the fucking barrel of this massive gun, which is where you belong. Investigating? Boom. How about, you're now corpse starch, right? Anyway.
Yeah, interesting. And so I wonder how I thought when reading this, so it's not Inquisitors, so it's just regular citizens. So are they going for a 40K version of Warhammer Fantasy, where you start off as very squishy, low level, easy to be horribly wounded or die in a fantasy world, and so they're trying to do that
in 40K. But like you're saying, 40K
That's the sense I
feels
get.
it feels so much more dangerous. But I do like a 40K setting where Space Marines are rare, where the really powerful stuff is far away, or it's limited like it should be. So so it's like a Star Wars game where everyone's playing Jedi. It's like okay, but I'm interested to see what they do with this and how they handle it. And I'm suspecting that they're trying to do that fantasy aesthetic.
No, I think
really
you're right.
weak, yeah.
I think it would make more sense. I would be willing to accept it more if like, okay, we're all basic citizens.
Mm-hmm.
The shit we're going to deal with is citizen level,
right.
Where it's like, and I get like that's not fun for some people, right? Like figuring out how you're going to get enough stuff to eat this week, right? Not the adventure you want to play, but like it's when you take these people who in the setting would have like no chance of getting anywhere higher on the social tier, and then going, oh, you have a little bit of social power to investigate these high level things. I'm like, nah, you kind of broke my suspension of disbelief a little bit there.
Interesting. Yeah, so similar to Wrath and Glory, Imperium Maledictum is going to take place in the Macarian sector. So Lord Solar Macarius, it's named after. Right. And so you're going to get a guide to this sector, a list of patrons to serve, enemies to face, and then future books will focus on specific factions. So they're going to be bringing in like Inquisitors, the Ecclesiarchy, and so different factions in different groups in that 40K setting, and that are much more powerful and influential. So I don't know, it might, if you could take a regular person though and bring them to this higher status and get them, they get augmented or they get weapons that will it could be interesting, because Wrath and Glory, everyone's pretty powerful. The characters that you make can be Space Marines or pretty powerful characters. So this is we'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see kind of what they do. And hopefully they're going to share some details. We don't have to just wait for them to spring the whole thing on us. But
I would be, I guess, getting off the whole setting thing, I would be very interested to see where the focus of the rules are, right? Because we've talked before, and there's any number of conversations about, okay, how thick is the combat section compared to other stuff? And if you're touting this as an investigative game, I would want to see a very chunky investigation chapter, and not like 2 pages. How did and then combat? I'm like, okay, well, you've said this, and the focus is obviously something different, right? So
that's a
I wonder how that's going to turn out.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Is they do have to move away and basically
or
say,
they don't.
Yeah, you're right. But that is kind of weird to say in a 40K setting. Well, maybe Inquisitor was a little bit more like that, the Dark Heresy game. But move away from that. Shouldn't be your first action is shooting at someone. You should be capturing them and
Well, not even,
in torturing them.
That's not the word I'm looking for. In torturing. I've combined investigate or interrogate and torture. There you go.
But that's what they call it. They just put them together.
Yeah, they do. Okay, I just thought of something that could be really interesting. Given the lack of upward mobility of Imperial citizenry, and given how they're not going to have access to fucking anything, it would be, I think, very interesting to play Imperial citizens doing investigation where the explicit rules are going to be, you got into a fight, you're fucking paced because you don't have anything, right? Where it's like, both setting-wise and mechanics-wise, the game is reinforced like, you come in guns blazing, you're instantly going to lose because you have no guns to blaze, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like, all right, how are we going to do this given our lack of access to all these things, right? Then it becomes interesting.
Right. Yeah, we had that. So the Blade Runner RPG is very focused on investigation. I think they do a really good job of that, and they make combat crazy deadly because basically a replicant just like pulled a police officer in half. In one of the scenes. So it's like, you got to watch out. If you get jumped by a replicant, you're in trouble. If they roll well, you are fucked. Yeah.
And they should roll well, right?
Right. They got a lot of D12s in their rolls.
They actually kind of do that in Alien a little bit too, right? Like the synthetic, hidden synthetic. You follow all the rules for everything. Once you get revealed, your strength goes through the roof, and you take no damage, and you're just like, you're gonna wipe the floor with everybody, but everyone's going to know who you are, and so you get rolled. So
Yeah. But so if they find a way to do that, if they're just going to try to convert their success with Warhammer Fantasy into a 40K setting, I don't know how
it could still be fun. It's just kind of not what you're presenting on the tin. Yeah.
Yeah, so we will see. Well,
Actually, now I kind of want to do a game where it's like an investigation game where it's just like, nope, you are outgunning fucking everything. So be smart about what you do.
right, and your ability to be regular and kind of hide, be invisible that's the thing.
Yep.
It's like, oh no, you're just a worker. They walk right past you,
Yep.
but you're actually like, trying to get into places. But an old classic coming back again. So Hasbro, unfortunately, I don't know if Restoration Games or who alerted Hasbro to the value of the old games that they produce that they may or may not have IPs or trademarks to anymore, but they're bringing them back. So welcome back, Heroescape. So an announcement.
I hadn't realized it left.
Yes. It's actually been.
That's the hexagonal tile board.
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
So this is interesting though, because we've already. So Matt, one of our patrons, who is in the chat right now, Matt asked us if when we were playing Frostgrave and things, if that would work on hexes.
And it would. Yep.
Yeah, if this comes back, maybe we should.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, make rules like do a quick port of this is how we would do it for the ranges and rules and everything. So you can use Lego minifigures on those hexes. You can use any sort of miniatures you wanted, and you'd have elevation and things. Yeah. So Heroescape is back, and this is a horrible date for some gamers in gaming history was November 3rd, 2010.
Is when it died.
Wizards of the Coast, Wizards of the Coast announced the end of the official Heroescape line. Since then, it's been supported pretty heavily. Yep. There's actually STLs for printing your own hexes, and people. What's that?
No, I was going to say, sorry to interrupt. I have to wonder if, and I have no idea about the community, I have to wonder if an active Heroescape community and people creating STLs made Hasbro go, there's money here.
Yeah. Well, and there's an interesting thing too, because I read the first announcement of this on the website Heroescapers, and they made there's some very interesting comments based on this. So it is back, but it's an expansion.
Okay.
So I guess they're assuming some people were saying that their old plastic hexes are getting a little brittle, like the plastic is aging, so it's not in great shape. So I hope they release a starter set in classic, that they don't just like try to continue on and say, you've all got your sets, right? So here's an expansion. But at Gen Con, they announced that they're going to be working on a new master set as well. Okay, that's good. Okay. So they are working on a new master set as well. But the interesting comment that came up, so everyone, of course, on Heroescapers is like, yes, oh my God, this is so great. And Hasbro has reached out because Craig Van Ness is at the helm of this design team, and he reached out to Heroescapers' own members. So there are about half a dozen members from this community that they asked for input about creating this new master set. So people that have been playing this game, since the early 2000s, and what you want to see. And so that's amazing for a company like Hasbro to do that, because this, I think, is going to be like a Hasbro Avalon Hill thing, like your request. For them to do that's pretty amazing, because they don't have to. They can just
they don't
spit out whatever and say you're going to eat this and like it, because it's all you're getting.
I kind of like that's awesome. It's awesome that they would reach out to like the community and say, okay, you have experience. What do you want? But I also wonder if this is thinking about, since it's right here, the D&D 5th edition, how it was crowdsourced.
Oh, right.
Like, I'm wondering if Hasbro is going, okay, we're kind of taking a risk here. Let's make sure what we make is going to appeal to the people who are going to our target audience, right?
Right.
So
and I didn't. This is still kind of early, so we don't have a lot of details. I'm a little bit worried that this is going to the HasLab, their crowdfunding.
Why would it
Hasbro web? Yeah, so I think they're going to be doing that. It'll definitely fund, but they are going to kind of, and so that's also going to mean that the price of it is going to be a little bit ridiculous. And I was really disappointed with what they did with HeroQuest. I thought that was ridiculously overpriced, because it went all out to everything that was offered there went out to retail, except the gender swaps of the main characters. That's it.
Who wants to play with girls?
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my God. But so Age of Annihilation is the expansion pack that was announced for the long-dormant cult classic Heroescape. And so, of course, if you don't know, so this is the customizable hexagonal board with plastic tiles that can be snapped together and stacked, so you can either do flat planes of different types of terrain or elevations.
Right.
So, and it's kind of a mishmash of different kind of fantasy.
Yeah. It's a multiverse kind of thing.
Right,
yeah.
right. So they will be continuing that. And so many people, that was their first taste of wargaming, like without rulers and things. So I think that's why a lot of people fondly think of it. And hopefully it will, be treated well when it comes back. And if this hexagonal, just the building parts of their boards is accessible, that could have an interesting influence on, here's a starter version of a lot of the great skirmish games that are already out there. Just count hexes instead of inches and those sorts
It's
of
a lot
things.
easier. Kind of makes me think of the old Avalon Hill hex and chit style
Oh,
war
yeah.
game thing,
Right,
which
right.
is kind of actually where I started, right? Picking up like some kind of Hail Caesar game for like 50 cents at a flea market. Oh, what's this? And just opening up the map and oh my God, right?
Yes,
I don't think
yes.
I actually successfully played with one. But one of my first eBay purchases was the original Avalon Hill Starship Trooper game.
Oh, nice.
Impossible to play.
Oh, really?
Not
Yeah,
impossible
yeah.
to play, but like way more complex than I wanted to play.
Interesting.
It, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's the one that actually like the bugs actually burrow, and part of it is to like draw like on your hex paper like the
Yeah.
bugs burrow, and that's when they had like the other alien race, right? The skinnies and people were in power suits, and anyway, yeah. But like hex and chits it's a style of game.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah. No, that's true. And you very easily could do that. Just get started. So, because miniature agnostic means paper, means
yeah, it
anything.
does. I mean, anything, yeah.
Yeah.
What's that? It's a cornflake, right? Yeah.
Right. So, so we'll see. They're aiming for, I don't know if they even gave an actual release, but of course, Heroescape was originally discontinued in 2010. So, but Hasbro now has the rights.
Man, it's 12 years.
Yeah. So they're, I think they're taking advantage of the nostalgia and becoming aware of some of these kind of dead things that
Like they didn't take
may have
advantage
some
of nostalgia with HeroQuest.
Yeah, right. The one thing that may be a little different than you're expecting from Hasbro and some of these companies is the figures will be unpainted, so it's not an open the box and play. There is some hobby.
It is, but
there's some hobbying that you can do, and so that might divide it or make it a little bit less accessible to elementary school kids and stuff.
But I mean, like, okay, if they come assembled but unpainted.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. On a sprue is much more intimidating than just unpainted. Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And so we'll see. But that's also going to bring the price point of the game way down.
Yeah.
Pre-painted is gonna make it a very premium. Even bad pre-painting is expensive.
Yeah, good point.
So we will see. So look for announcements from Hasbro for that. And my advice, after my experience with Heroescape, because I think they're only going to deliver to North America, is just wait for it to hit retail. It doesn't take that long. You get much better shipping, and you get a much better price. They're not giving you great prices
As opposed to doing it on HasLabs.
Yeah, but if you don't support it on HasLabs, it may not happen.
Right.
So that's that's
how they get you.
Right. Yeah. That's the thing that you have to kind of weigh, which was surprising because HeroQuest did not hit its goal like first 24 hours. Yeah. Because it was an untested platform. I think it was the first
That
big.
was the thing. Yeah. Okay, everybody knows about Kickstarter. How many people knew about HasLabs, right? So
yeah, and I think they didn't probably promote it as well as they could have, and it didn't look amazing. Like what they were offering wasn't amazing. There wasn't like, we've got to hit these goals. They didn't run it like a Kickstarter. It was just like a pre-order. It was a pre-order with some bonuses.
well, that's not what Kickstarter is. Not a pre-order.
Right. Yeah. So we'll see. So it's a real. It's real difficult. If you really love the game, definitely support it on HasLab because you want to see it happen. But I think for people that are kind of on the fence or whatever, wait because you don't get a good deal on it, and you can't get it outside of North America.
Right.
But moving on to much more fun news, the Ennies 2022. Of course, all the winners were announced. I guess they have a little ceremony at Gen Con, so you give speeches and the music plays you off and.
I'll never go, and I'll never win an Ennie, so I don't know. Yeah.
But product of the year, Thirsty Sword Lesbians.
Oh, really? Okay.
Best game of the year, Thirsty Sword Lesbians. They cleaned up. And
They were very thirsty.
yeah, their thirst was quenched. Hopefully,
Was it?
Yeah, I don't know. And so best adventure. Oh, so the second places for best game was Root the RPG,
Okay.
and product of the year was Call of Cthulhu Classic Prop Set, which that got a lot of attention too. So that's something that may be worth looking at. It's all the handouts from
Right.
all the
I'm just
classic
glad it
adventures.
wasn't like an oversized D20 put up. Anyway, yeah.
So best adventure Uncaged Goddesses, fan favorite publisher Darrington Press. So did they let the internet vote for this? Because that's Critters, right? That's
Do you mean what do you mean
Critical
they
Role.
let the internet vote for this?
This
That's all the Ennies is, right?
That's Critical Role, right?
I think so, yeah.
So the Critters just pounded the
Of course.
the button for Darrington, and best writing Dune: Adventures in the Imperium.
Okay.
Best supplement Call of Cthulhu: Cults of Cthulhu. Best setting Tal Dore campaign setting for Reborn. And there were a couple of things.
No, isn't that what
couple
like
settings-
Taldor
settings-
Reborn?
Oh,
Isn't
Reborn,
that isn't that the CR one?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, and best family game Wander Home.
Okay.
So there's some great stuff. Design and layout Delta Green's Impossible Landscapes. I won't read everything. Oh, best interior art, The One Ring, second
okay.
edition. Yeah, I mean, that was a big surprise for me. How much I loved what that game looked like. The Martin Grip, kind of real epic, kind of scenic stuff, but real dark and broody. So it had, more kind of continuing that Peter Jackson aesthetic of kind of a dark and kind of ugly time, which makes sense with what's going on in that world. And the best production values were the prop set for Call of Cthulhu, best aid, the prop set from Call of Cthulhu. So some good stuff. Best podcast was Roll to Cast, second place. First place, Ain't Nobody Slayin' got the gold for. Ain't Slayed Nobody. Ain't Slayed Nobody. The best podcast. So I haven't heard either of those. Overall. So very surprising that I guess it's not that surprising with how the Ennies usually vote. But a question that I had for you, this is going to bring a lot of attention to Thirsty Sword Lesbians. Is that a game that a cis het straight gaming group, should have access to, should want to try? Do they need someone? Oh, yeah.
I haven't read the game.
Oh,
Sorry, like
Yeah.
I have PDF copies. I backed both that and the expansion because of shipping, and I
you
understand
still
why
got it,
Evil
yeah.
Hat only ships to North America.
yes.
They're sitting at my folks' place, right?
I
And with
see.
this pandemic, I can't.
right.
I could have read the PDF. I haven't had time. I'm still going to say yes, right?
Would the game be better though with a game master from the queer community taking you through it, or should you just not be playing around? Because the thing that I would fear is if just a straight group picked this up, that it would be RuPaul's Drag Race parody. It would just be like the tone of the game. They would kind of miss, what you were doing with those characters, and it would just kind of be a little more farce or.
Well, the thing is, like, okay, this isn't specifically for Thirsty Sword Lesbians, but it's kind of like any game. When we kind of talked about this before, when I was thinking about, I really wanted to run the Nahual RPG, right? Or any other type of RPG that centers on a kind of identity. If you're not that identity, then the thing to not do is treat it like a stereotype. Right? So if you're just going to play, like, understand, like, I don't have this experience, right? Like, if we were going to play Nahual, it's like none of us have like Mexican or Latin American heritage at all, right? So the thing we're not going to do is put on accents, try to like imagine, not trying to imagine what this culture would be, but basically we're going to go, we don't know, we don't have firsthand experience with this. We're still going to play our characters kind of like we do. We're going to get things wrong, but we're not intentionally going to try and Mexico this up, right? Like, because we're just good. Then we've crossed the line to stereotype, and that's what you don't want to do.
Right.
Like, so I think it's fine to play a game and go, we don't have experience with this identity, but that's what the game is about. So let's just essentially play it straight, right? Like, I'm not going to play this character any different from any other character I would, which you could argue misses the point. But I think trying to do the opposite is worse, right? Like
right.
let's ramp this up. No, you can't, because you don't have that experience. You don't know what you're doing. Just play it normally, right? So my short answer is then yes. Don't RuPaul and drag race it up, right?
Right. So that would mean that there's a lot more pressure possibly on the designers to get across what they want to get across about that culture, or like, what's unique, what's interesting, why they decided to make that setting. Like the mechanics and the setting itself need to teach, or need to have some sort of ability to at least let you imagine a little bit more.
Not necessarily.
Oh, really?
And I cut you off.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. You could. It depends on what the designer wants to do. They could do either, right? They could either go, yes, this is about whatever identity, and to make it as accessible as possible, we're going to not hold your hand, but we're going to do a lot more explaining about what that is and blah, 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 blah. The other side is to go, this is about whatever identity. If that's not you, cool, thanks for playing our game. It's not our job to teach you about that, right?
Right?
We're centering this experience. If that's not you, cool. Some of this is going to go over your head, and that's just part of life.
Right.
It depends on which one the designer wants to do.
Yeah.
Right? Are we going to like take you through it, or are we going to say this is for a group of people? They'll get it. Even if you don't, you can still play the game. You can still enjoy it. It's just stuff is going to be
Right.
over your head.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, because the thing that I worry about is I can see a gaming shelf,
Right.
a virtual signal in itself that someone has purchased all of these games to say, I'm a good person, I'm very open, I'm an ally, I'm inclusive. I'll never play these games, but I purchased all of them to show my support. I don't know should RPG purchases be...
Again, I think it depends, right? Like I could see people doing that, right?
Right.
My feeling then is, okay, the people who made that RPG, if you bought it, still got your money. So on the one hand, you're supporting them, right? Which is why if you get to like, wow, that guy's an asshole, white supremacist, you bought their book. The money still went to them. You can't claim any kind of moral superiority about, I just want to play the game. Cool. Your money still funded them.
Right.
The flip side of that is, okay, I want to be a better ally to whatever group. I've bought their games. Kind of doesn't matter if you play them, because the end result is the person still got your money.
Yeah,
right?
you supported. Right.
Where you kind of run into problem is then people trying to get their ally points by saying, look at my bookshelf.
Yeah,
right? So like once you go to that, like, look at my bookshelf, and once you start kind of virtue signaling or white knighting or doing all this stuff, that's when I kind of go, But if you're just like, which is kind of different from saying, I enjoyed this game, or I'm glad this game exists, I'll never play it, but I still bought it, then it's like, okay, cool, right? So again...
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's kind of two.
Oops,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, that's difficult, and so it's good. I'm glad this game's getting attention. The only complaint that I've heard online about the game, and both of us having not read it, is there is, I forget what the term is, but there is kind of a conversion mechanic. There is a making someone queer, like making a straight character queer mechanic in the game. And
I would be, okay, only based on the fact that it's Evil Hat, and based on the fact that I'm pretty sure the designers of this game, I'm going to have to go look into that.
Yeah.
Because thinking about when we play like Monster Hearts, right? Like at no point in Monster Hearts does it say, this is a mechanic for turning people
right. Oh yeah,
queer
right,
or whatever.
Right.
But like in turn someone on, like it explicitly states it doesn't matter what sexuality the people involved are. If the dice say the person's turn on, they are. And how they react to those feelings is entirely up to them.
Right.
So
yeah,
I have the PDF. I'm going to have to go read
this.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
Curious.
Take a look at that, because they did change that, didn't they? Or maybe that was just with NPCs between first and second edition. I liked first edition Monster Hearts better, I think.
There are elements I liked better.
But I think they did something with...
What they did with Turn Someone On in Monster Hearts 2E, they explicitly called out your feelings are your own and work that into mechanics. That was always part of the original MC stuff, but they just made it more explicit. Like, okay, if that's what it was, like if you give them a string, you're admitting they turned you on, but you still get complete control of your character. They've rolled that into the rules in 2E.
Okay.
So that's the difference there. Yeah.
Yeah. So so this is good. And we'll see. And we have to play that game. We have lesbians. We've got thirsty lesbians that can run that game. So we need to be playing that.
All right, I'm gonna go home. It's kind of it's not exactly a slow day at work, but all right, I'll just like stealth pull up the PDF and start reading it. All right.
All right, and let's end on a sad note.
Oh, geez. All right.
Well, this is expected. I think they even hinted at this in the Kickstarter,
Right.
which shouldn't have been a Kickstarter. But Free League announces the Lord of the Rings role-playing for 5e. It was a little bit confusing between how people were talking about this and the announcement by Free League themselves. But Free League is overreaching. I think they need to they're popular. They're making money. They've got good systems. They've got good games, but the number of licenses now and then converting things to 5e, they're really overextending themselves. Saborum was converted to 5e, so that's going to be a thing that if something is popular, we may be playing Tales from the Loop for 5.
No, the fuck we won't. Who is this we you're talking of, right? People maybe, we will not.
But I just want to say two names to Free League if they're listening: Target Games and Rackham. Two companies that suddenly disappeared because they overextended themselves. And who knows what actually happened to that money?
Right.
It sounds like there's a little bit of embezzlement or something going on in both those situations. But please be careful. We really value you as a publisher in the game space, and to get a little too greedy and to want to reach your hands in every single gamer's pocket is not possible. You can't compete.
If it's kind of I have no idea what it is, but I wonder if it's kind of the flip side, because like Alien, Blade Runner, The One Ring,
Twilight 2000.
Oh,
was an
Twilight
IP,
2000. Oh, yeah, I suppose. I was thinking kind of like more like, this sounds shitty. I was thinking more big media franchises, right?
Right.
No idea how it worked. Maybe those media franchises came to Free League and said, we're thinking of an RPG. You came up on our list.
Right.
In which case, Free League maybe has to go, okay, well, yes, we'll definitely do it, because who wants to say no to that, right?
And it may also be people shopping rights around. There's a lot of brand reps and stuff so maybe at like a Gen Con or a European convention, somebody was approaching them with rights.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, like, I agree with your point. It's kind of like licenses, depending on which ones they are, can't be cheap. And if you lose that license,
it's just,
your game's kind of dead unless you file the serial numbers off of it enough to produce a new version, right?
Right. So this basically just means that the One Ring role-playing game is coming to 5e. So it's an adaptation, and this adaptation is going to be entitled The Lord of the Rings role-playing game for 5e, which is a little bit confusing because there was Adventures in there was other role-playing games. But I guess this also indicates they own the rights to The Lord of the Rings.
Right.
Yeah. So even though the second edition was a second edition of specifically the One Ring system, they're kind of updating and including some of their mechanics in the One Ring. This is going to just be the Lord of the Rings role-playing game by Free League, and it's the thing is it's going to stick to similar to the One Ring. You're going to be limited to the kind of one area.
Right. Well, you would have
events.
to be if it's called Lord of the Rings.
Right. So the Lone Lands of Eriador is just similar to the One Ring, is where you're limiting all of your action, and so I don't know. This is they have the rights from the Saul Zaentz company, so they're good to go, I guess. But I mean, and of course, Lord of the Rings was one of the inspirations for Dungeons and Dragons.
It's kind of weird. I was thinking about that. Okay, like Lord of the Rings inspired Dungeons and Dragons, which has now kind of become its own thing enough to the point where Lord of the Rings is now right. There's a version of it for 5e. It's weird. It's kind of negative. It's interesting, right? It's like I was wondering how much have these things diverged. Apparently enough where they're distinct enough so that when you combine them again, you're kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so the fantasy setting is getting 6 original heroic cultures from the land of Eriador, 6 new classes, a host of terrifying adversaries, comprehensive rules for journeys, councils, wondrous artifacts, and the subtle magic of Middle Earth. So yeah, we'll see. And the one thing that they did mention is that Adventures in Middle Earth originally got a lot of acclaim for they're adapting the traveling rules for
Right,
5e.
okay.
So I guess a lot of 5e DMs have been using those traveling rules. So yeah, maybe we'll see an appearance
Well,
of
the
that.
Lord of the Rings
as
is
well.
traveling, right?
Yeah, right. Just
Okay, session 2,
traveling around.
travel montage.
Yes, right. Are you running or walking?
I'm striding gracefully across the snowbanks. Yeah, all right.
Right. Yeah. Right. So yeah, they kind of we knew this was coming, but I don't want to see too much 5e from Free League because then they're just going to be moving away. Then
Well,
what is that going to?
Okay, they might be, but on the other hand, like depending on the popularity of 5e, you do what you got to do. 5e stuff may be funding
Yeah. Yeah.
their
that's a good
other
point.
stuff,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Like
right.
their Alien, their Blade Runner, their Mutant Year Zero, there's some Borum, their
So
Tales from the Loop. So
yeah, right. Well, just like the directors that make one for the studio, one for
Yep.
themselves. Yeah. So hopefully we'll see another, some extension of one of their original games, an expansion, or some content that's theirs, that they own. Hopefully this, like you said, that this will fund that, and it'll get 5e people to play Lord of the Rings. And I think the timing is pretty good for them too. I think it's coming out. I don't know if they gave a specific release date. First quarter of 2023. So that Amazon series is going to be running.
Oh, right,
probably
right.
into that. So it's going to be a lot more attention on Lord of the Rings. Although it's totally different time periods
But
and,
still,
and
same-
characters and
same
everything.
setting, yeah.
But it's still the brand. So brand
Right.
awareness is up. So yeah, we'll see. I wasn't super excited about the news, but there it is. And just less 5e because it's not. Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't seem. You want more people to play your games. If that is a good source of funding, they're going to keep doing it, and hopefully they'll reinvest that money back into making interesting and unique games with their mechanics.
one would hope.
Yeah. All right. So that'll do it for this week. So where can people find you?
On Twitter,
Oh,
as
that's
always.
right.
Yeah, that's right. It's Hivemind, HYVEMYND, where recently I'm just talking about play tests of that little pixel art spaceship game, right? I've gone back to the rough and dirty paper prototypes because otherwise I get way too focused on how things look, and I find out the game doesn't fucking work, right? Which has happened several times, right? With this one game
But it
alone.
looks great.
It looks great. It doesn't do fucking anything, right? So yeah, it's just hand-scrolled notes on cards and dice and tokens and stuff. So yeah. So
Nice. Oh, question I've been
Yep.
meaning to ask you about your Twitter
Yep.
handle and everything. So is that a kind of a tribute or a reference at all to the Southern rock band Lynyrd Skynyrd by changing your eyes to Y's?
No, it isn't.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought I had to ask.
this has come up before, right? Like, okay, it's back from the old AIM days where I played StarCraft, and of course I played a Zerg, and I wanted something Zergy, and like Hydralisk was already taken, so I'm like, Hivemind taken. Oh, let's just change it to fucking Y's.
Nice.
Bingo. I'm like, there it is. And so I've held it from the old
Excellent.
AIM instant message days. Yeah.
Nice. Just curious.
Yeah,
Just
sure.
curious. All right. And you can find me, if you're in fact looking, drawing my single panel gag cartoon, Domestic Abuse, on Monday evenings, North American time, kind of Tuesday afternoon, if you're on the other side of the world. And I do a live stream on YouTube and Twitch. And Abuse Cartoons on all of those platforms if you want to see that drawn. And gocomics.com/abuse cartoons. Oh, sorry, no. gocomics.com/domestic abuse
Yep.
for the entire archive, 20 years of that cartoon. And if you like what we're doing here and you enjoyed the weird technical difficulties we
Yeah.
had with the audio, please visit patreon.com/upturned table and become a weekling. So tell us what you'd like to see on the weekly.
Or what you'd like to hear. Audio.
If you'd like to hear audio, we'll get there. It'll take us about 10 minutes, but we'll get there. And so the extra banter, the beginning and end of this podcast are on the Patreon RSS feed. There's not going to be a lot. I think I'm just going to cut all that silence, so I won't give you that silence to listen to. But the Patreon RSS feed is all the additional content, and the audio sweetened up so it sounds a little bit nicer than you're hearing on this live stream. And so you can also find us Upturned Table
Basically everywhere.
Yeah, basically on all social media, and upturntable.com is the website. And take a look on the YouTube channel for the interview with Ben Nielsen from Bandit Camp about the current Wicked Ones Kickstarter and Undead Awakening.
Nice.
All right. That's it for this week. We'll be back next week.
Later, mortals.
Goodbye.
Oh, thanks.
All right. Be right back. All right. Sorry. The time has been over for all this time. What a week. This is brutal. Here's the audio. Hi, Abyss. Hi, Matt. How's it going? Yeah, the audio was totally gone. So Windows forced a update and it restarted the machine, and it seemed to all be working. But of course, the last thing I forgot to check was the audio. And I did fix the audio, but I set it to a webcam that's on the shelf over there across the room. So we were yelling across the room. And thank God Matt was in the chat to tell us we can't hear anything. Now it sounds like a speakerphone. And I chose the right. So the drivers themselves, when they show up in OBS, are just USB codec. So there's not much differentiating. Hey, Gene, how's it going? Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, so it's good to see everyone. So yeah, I got that fixed. I'll cut that out. So there's much less premium content this week. The beginning and end. Yeah, that took a while to figure out what was wrong, because everything was, going good going into OBS, which is usually, that's the thing I worry about more, is cables getting jarred or whatever. But, oh, yes, that's right. I forgot one of the players was listening. All right. But, yeah, because I mentioned our Blade Runner, which we will be doing again tomorrow. Hopefully, if everything goes well. We'll be doing again tomorrow the second session of the Blade Runner RPG. And, yeah, Officer Andre did not fare well. And that's the nice thing. I double checked the rules to make sure I did everything technically right with his demise, and it really does say NPCs. You roll for combat, but all the other mechanics, don't really come into play. You're not doing everything, so he wouldn't have taken so much actual injury. Damage points because of his armor. Maybe some of that would have abated it, but because he was so critically injured, it didn't really matter. It went beyond what his armor could save him from. But that was really interesting. I liked how we found the deadliness of that game pretty fast. All right. So so we're talking about the new 40K RPG. And Matt says, how many 40K RPGs do we need? Yeah, right. If you take into account, so the Black Industries, I guess those all continued on to Fantasy Flight, but Fantasy Flight continued like 6 different, because you had Dark Heresy, Black Crusade, the Only War, and then the one where you're all Space Marines, and what else? I mean, they had a lot of 40K RPGs, and then they had Wrath and Glory. Originally, Ulysses Spiel did Wrath and Glory, which is like a little pocket. It's you're cut off from the Imperium, so you have all the factions, but they're kind of dislocated or disconnected from the rest. Yeah, so it's a lot, and there's some interesting ways to play in that world, but if they're just kind of iterating on the same D100 system. So yeah, so Matt says, I struggle to see 40K as a setting that allows for a lot of roleplay flexibility. Yeah, Chris nailed it. 40K is a constant funeral. That's nice. So that should be the title of their next RPG, Constant Funeral. all you do is roll to find out which one of your friends or compatriots has died, doing their slave labor for the Imperium, or getting killed in the as soldiers, as in the Imperial Guard. But there are, if you're reading the the Siege of Terra series, there are named Imperial Guardsmen that have made it through 5 books. So yes, they you give them a name and they survive. I guess that's the kind of the gimmick they're going for, is if they have if they're a named character, then they get plot armor. So I guess in your game there's a certain amount of that. Yes. And Matt said, oh yeah, combat should be like the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay against Space Marine level stuff. You just die. Yeah, they just pulp you. Yeah, I think that's a really good. And so hopefully this setting, that's going to be incredibly rare. Like, when you run up against something like that, you're basically going to know you don't have a chance. Yeah. So, and Matt said, love Heroescape, hate Magic the Gathering D&D versions of it. Oh, right. That's right, because it was Wizards of the Coast. So, of course, they did that. So I just hope they make those hex tiles more accessible, that there's big master sets. They don't have a lot of miniatures in them. Separate the miniatures and just give us the hexes, because I think there's a lot of fun we can do with those hexes, especially if they're produced cheaply and are made from a durable plastic. That would be really cool. And I think doing frost, I'm sure someone's going to do that immediately, because there are like icy little tiles, I think, for Heroescape. They'll immediately do some kind of Frostgrave, and all the popular skirmish games will get their hex rules. Oh no, so Gen Con was a super spreader event. Yeah, I mean, Americans are kind of in denial. In Japan, we've still got an elevated status for COVID, because a lot of people are getting it. But yeah, I think a lot of people are in denial that it's over, because it's not as well. I don't know. It appears to be not as deadly, but it's very contagious. So people are still going to get it. And from what I've heard from healthcare professionals, like firsthand, they said everyone's going to have to get it before we're done with this. So, yeah, it's not like it's avoidable. It'll just get more and more contagious, but hopefully less and less, damaging. Abyss, good to see you. Yes, so Matt said I've considered buying Thirsty Sword Lesbians, but enjoyed reading rule books. But it's a game I could be a game I never play. Well, if we get Chris to run it, if I can get Chris online, and we can find a good, probably there might be a good module for it on Foundry. It would be fun. Yeah, if you've watched, I don't think we've recorded any actual plays because they get a little unfamily friendly for YouTube, too unfamily friendly for YouTube. So some of the sessions that Chris has run, get a little crazy, but you definitely have to. Chris is a great game master. All right. Oh yeah, right. Thank you, Matt. Yeah, not the best. We are talking about 5e though. Not the best bumper. And Matt also said, I run like Gimli, miserable the whole time, but I still get there. So we're not playing the travel rules with you, Matt. You'll just be complaining. It'll be roll to complain, roll to whinge. Right. And Abyss said, yeah, if that abomination of a TV show gets any success, then things might get wild for Lord of the Rings. Yeah, if they do enough, if in that story, it's so crazy though, because a lot of the Witcher series did this, the Foundation did this, and now Lord of the Rings is going to do this. They're going to take an unmanageable span of time, in case of Lord of the Rings, thousands of years, and I guess we're talking about elven lifespan, so it's a little bit different. But in some of the other settings, they're jumping through all these times and they're telling a story and they're giving you like dramatic arcs and connections, but they're jumping ahead 100 years. They just like keep doing that and to tell the stories that they have to. And of course, the books handle those sorts of things much differently, but TV shows have to do some weird stuff. So there's going to be some very, very strange stuff with the. With what they're doing with time, and people are already citing that just from stills and trailers and stuff, they're getting so much wrong, like people that weren't even alive when they're in scenes at certain times and stuff. So it could be a mess, but if they hit the internet just right, and there's a lot of characters to ship in there, and there's a lot of, cosplayable, fan artable stuff, it could, and that's what they're hoping for. I think Amazon is hoping for the effect that Game of Thrones had, but, look what happened to Game of Thrones. Does anybody want to go back and rewatch Game of Thrones? There's just no way. I mean, by the time you get to the 6th season, it's just like, oh yeah, I'm not doing this again. It's brutal. Once they go off book, it's too brutal. So I don't know what, but the thing is though, Amazon, that $1 billion that they threw at it, and they're guaranteeing 5 seasons or whatever, they already have committed to 5 seasons. So that's going to happen. And they're just going to throw that money away. They could have just burnt that on a pile anyhow. So any small success that it gets, or any signups for Amazon Prime or whatever that it gets, and then being able to sell it to other streaming services, that's all, just going to be a benefit, because I think they've already kissed that $1 billion goodbye. So thankfully there are some protections from books due to its own foundation and owned by its family. But outside of that, it is a free game apparently. Oh, interesting. Yeah, right. The Lord of the Rings. Yes. Yes. Sorry, Abyss, you missed the wonderful pantomime version. And Abyss also said, I wonder if it has to do with anything of the success of the crime novels. Oh, interesting. I'm sorry, I'm missing what... I'm missing a reference maybe that Gene brought up. Matt, thank you. Thank you for modding there. Gene bot. Oh, man. Thank you, Matt, for detecting Gene. I wonder what Gene was spamming on us. Probably her OnlyFans. Thank you so much, Matt. Yeah, we got stuck because we weren't any mods when we were playing the Arcane Brawl, and we got some spam bot in there that was just hitting the, I don't know what it was, if it was porn links or online gambling links or whatever. But I would keep kicking them out and then come right back in and then just spam. So every message just like shot up, like 20 or 30 messages. So yeah, YouTube's got to get their shit together and be less penetratable by bots. I think they need to secure to not make us work so hard and be a little bit more secure of a platform. GeneBot. That's too bad. I was talking to a bot. So I guess that bot passed the what's the test? The Turing test, because I said hello to it. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate that. Yeah. So that's an interesting thing. So I've been talking to a few people about that when we bring up the Thirsty Sword lesbians, and also the topic of Coyote and Crow. I think that's the order. The Native American indigenous people written, like all the writers and artists were indigenous that worked on that project. I think there was a little controversy about what the creators said about non-indigenous people playing the game. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a difficult thing because you can, a business model, buy it if you're a good person business model. I say that. I think that's a garbage business model, and it's not going to last, and it's not going to be able to sustain itself, especially if politics or whatever shift. But they need to be good games. They can't just have a veneer of multicultural inclusivity. They can't have just the look of it. They need to be good games done by these creators. They can't be people that are just using a particular label to sell something. And so we need to start seeing that. And hopefully, I was assuming that was what the intention of the BIPOC Lounge at Gen Con was, to assemble, the best people of a particular group. And hopefully, there's some cross-pollination and some things between creators, and you start to get an identifiable identity and good work from, a group that hasn't had a lot of spotlight or a lot of exposure in the community, in the gaming community. But if it's just a bunch of people banking on their race or their sexuality or their gender, then it's a very short-lived thing, and you can't guarantee that even though movie studios are doing this, they're going with that kind of marketing where if you don't watch this movie, you're racist. If you don't watch this movie, you're misogynist. It's like telling people that they need to spend their money on your project because you've put a specific label on it, and if they don't, that means they're a bad person or they're against somebody or whatever. I think that's really short-sighted, and it's just taking advantage of this weird kind of culture war that's going on in basically just the U.S. I think it's spread to other English-speaking parts of the world, but I think that's really short-sighted and silly, and trying to bank on something like that is really, really short-sighted. And you just need to make good work. And if the fact that you're a creator of a certain background, then getting a little bit of attention drawn to you because of that, but people finding your good work, I think, is what is important. Ugh. Oh, Abyss said, I have not played Dark Tower yet. No, and I just backed the expansion, and we have not played Dark Tower yet. We haven't, literally since I unboxed that game, we haven't physically gotten together. The original group that I would play that with haven't gotten together. The OSR group has a few times, but we're kind of on this. We're we're doing RuneQuest now, but the original group, kids have been sick and spouses have been sick, and it's just been a mess. So Abyss, we will definitely stream that. If that happens, we'll definitely stream that, because I think people, I'm sure there's a ton of it online, but people should see how that plays and kind of how we interact with it. And I have a cheap ass tablet now, like an 8-inch tablet that we can throw around the table to run the app on, so I don't feel so because that's the thing about it. If it's a phone, it's a little bit too small, and if it's an iPad, you're handing around like this $1,000 device that you want people to be a little bit more careful with. So I just got a cheap ass Fire, HD to run that app on. So it'll have decent speakers on it, and then if someone drops it or throws up on it or whatever, it doesn't matter. Oh man. Oh yeah, Abyss. Yeah, Prey was a decent movie. Yeah, it's on Disney Plus here for some reason. I don't know why. I thought it was a Hulu original, but I guess it's Fox maybe and Disney. I don't know how that works. But yeah, Prey was interesting. But for me, it felt like that's the bare minimum that a movie should be. You know, because it wasn't. It was beautiful. The cinematography was great. Acting was okay. The story was super simple. And you kind of knew what was going to happen. And the level that movie was at was kind of the bare minimum of what movies should be. You shouldn't be compromising story and everything for the politics or the virtue signaling of what, the culture that you're showing. So, and I think they did virtue signal a little bit because they did a Comanche dub of the movie, but they didn't film it twice. So they're just dubbing over the English mouth movement with Comanche. So they're placating their, people that would criticize them for, well, why didn't you just have all these Native Americans speak Comanche? And they weren't all Comanche. I mean, the actors themselves are not all Comanche. So, there are different languages amongst the indigenous people in America. So you can't just assume everyone can speak the same language. And that was a little bit like half-assed. And it probably would have been more interesting and more immersive if they weren't speaking English and you either had subtitles or they just made the movie watchable without subtitles, like they did with the French in the Japanese subtitles. They don't translate what the French are saying. They just say speaking French, speaking French, speaking French. So they othered the French trappers that were in Prey by not translating anything that they're saying, just making them these unintelligible monsters. So, but I think there would have been an interesting way to tell that story very clearly, because it was a pretty simple story, and there was a lot of physical interaction that would have explained the relationship between the characters, like shoving and angry or loving gestures and things that you would have been able to pick up, and that would have been a bit more immersive. But that's the bare minimum of what movies should all be, and you should go up from there. I really felt like the story was and everything. Yeah, that's it. That's the what they, and it's so funny that a lot of the other The Predator, that horrible Shane Black movie. I mean, they couldn't even get a Predator movie done. It was such a jokey mess. But it's interesting. The take on that was very fun, and they tied it into Predator 2 with the flintlock pistol. And jumping around, that would be the most fun about Predator, is just having them come to Earth at radically different eras of technology and things, and playing around with that idea. I think that would be fun, like a Predator in the middle of the Civil War or something. There could be some really fun, weird, or in the Napoleonic Wars or so. Some interesting era that would be a shift in technology that would make it, give you some more dynamics. So Abyss says those kids had no past acting experience, so even if they showed a bit, so ever, and it showed, but it showed they really did their best. Oh, interesting. Yeah. So a lot of first time actors. Yeah, and that's got to be the difficult part, because you see that a lot when they're trying to cast an Asian actor. There's like 5 Asian actors in Hollywood, and they're just casting the same person over and over again. So this is the older guy, this is the older woman, this is the young guy, this is the young woman, in the pool of Hollywood. So it's good that they're going outside. Nice. Gonna have to solo it. Oh, yeah. Oh, what are we soloing? Oh no. Oh yeah, if you're talking about soloing the Dark Tower, yeah, that's true. I could do that. I'm not sure how much less action that would be, but yeah, I probably will have to, because I'm the only person that can't make myself sick. I can just infect others. All right. Yeah, the weird dub thing. I think they did that to avoid the criticism of like cultural appropriation, because the director was just a white guy, so they're trying to. But it would have been interesting to do that, and I think I've seen that in other films where there's there was a film just recently where they just didn't subtitle, didn't translate what people were saying in another language, and it was to put you. What was that? Was that The Boys or something? There was something where you were in a situation, and it put you in the situation of the main characters, because they were taken by some guys speaking some language they didn't understand, and you were in their. You could empathize much more with the character in that situation because they weren't translating anything people were saying, so you were as lost as they were. I forget what movie that was. Yes, thanks, Matt. Dark Tower. I'm gonna solo that bad boy. I should, yeah, just so you guys can see, because seeing the miniatures on the board and everything. Yeah, it's nice. Be a nice looking. Just one more person. Yeah, just if everybody could stop getting sick and stop having sick coworkers and family members and everything. Yeah, it's just that's the situation here, though. It just every day it seems like I hear another person or someone connected to someone. I don't know how companies are staying open again, but I think they're taking it. They're just doing like a 5-day quarantine and taking it easy. A Predator play on Seven Samurai would be a lot of fun. Oh yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Oh, that would be really good. Is Edo Japan, like samurai era Japan Predator? Oh, that would be great. Yeah. Well, cool idea, Matt. All right, but yeah. So that was fun. There's a lot of interesting eras. Yeah, as opposed to the Old West, I think samurai, Edo period, Japan would be a very much more fun Predator environment, because that's what they haven't done. Like for some reason, Predators just keep coming back to North America, or I guess I forget where Alien versus Predator, where that temple was. Yeah, but they've already screwed up their. I mean, it doesn't. I don't think it even matters anymore, because there's so many creators and corporate hands and stuff in different properties. It's like the continuity and the lore of Predator doesn't make any sense, because they specifically said in Prey this was the first time that a Predator had come to. It's like it's not that long ago, so it doesn't make sense. Nice. Yeah, that'd be fun. All right. Yeah, has there been? There was something that one of the indie RPGs that I was like a sci-fi RPG that I was just reading that said you could play this like a Predator thing. What was that? I think it was something we talked about on the cast too. They specifically said you could play this game with one big bad kind of enemy Predator style. I forget what game that was. Was it Mothership? Like somebody wrote like a Mothership. I can't remember. That's funny. But something was Predator just recently. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week. I apologize again for the rough start with the audio. And Matt, thank you so much. If we would have gone for an hour with no audio, that would have been ridiculous, because there's no. I'm not recording it locally. Like I don't have a digital recorder on the soundboard, which I should. The mixer should be coming out to a backup digital recorder, and it's not. I'm just going straight to the streaming. So thank you so much. And I hate the fact that, there's only one tiny meter on OBS that tells me if there's any sound, and it doesn't tell me if it's webcam sound or these expensive microphone sounds. Abyss said, probably Mothership. I think it was. Abyss said, or a Predator movie where the Predator is the final girl. Predator captures and tools taken away. Oh, yeah, that would be really cool. Because we haven't seen that yet. As a Predator stripped of technology and having to do it. Yeah, that's very cool. More Rambo style, like having to use just its abilities to kind of do what the humans were doing against it. Is cobbling together like primitive snares and bike traps, bamboo type spear traps. Yeah, that'd be very cool. Yeah. I think that. So if that is the case, if somebody did do that, that might have been included in that Mothership box set. So I might be getting it. So I might come across that if I unbox the Mothership set. Yeah, it was good to see you, Abyss. And Matt, I will see you tomorrow, or I guess tonight. Wait, I don't even know what's going. Yeah, no, you're Thursday night. So tomorrow night I will see you, Matt. I hate this time difference thing. But yeah, you guys take care. And it was really fun to have you. And thanks for catching. Oh, so your skills, your Blade Runner skills at identifying artificial chat members paid off. I guess Perez is rubbing off on you. You were able to VK Gene right away. I totally missed what they were saying, but I'm sure it was spammy. All right. That was weird too. It was realistic enough though, because it misspelled it, like, kind of truncated, upturned table. So that's why I thought it was a real person, because it looked like a typo. These AIs are getting too clever. Unknown girl, hey, how's it going? You caught the end. Well, good. You didn't hear the part where there was no audio. Good to see you. Yeah, beginning. Chris and I were bantering, and the audio driver was gone. It had been screwed up by Windows update, and I had to find it again, and I found the wrong one. So you heard us from all the way across the room. Yeah, so I hooked up that webcam because I was wondering, like, sometimes Chris brings in stuff to show, and I was wondering if we should just do a camera where we could switch to like a little overhead. So I have a little webcam hooked up, and that means one more weird microphone. Yeah, it lasted a while. I think it was a good 10 minutes. So rewind, go to the beginning of the stream, and just watch a bunch of gestures. And no sound. Yeah, Matt caught it right away, but I didn't look at the chat soon enough. So apologies for that. We should be fine though. There shouldn't be any more updating and forced restarts. It's just that Windows thing, and how drivers get knocked out every time they do something with Windows. But it's for our own protection. Windows Defender loves us, so they're not doing it intentionally. You don't even imagine. I complain about it all the time on the Abuse Cartoons live stream. Every time it totally wipes out my whole monitor setup, and the tablet is dead. Every time Windows updates, and so then I got to go back in and update both the video driver and the Wacom tablet driver, both, and that can take up to an hour. So if I don't do that before the stream, I can get really screwed. Brutal. You can just see our sweaty, silent. Yeah, I should just go through and put silent film type comedy titles in that little exchange. Oh yeah, so check out on the channel if you want to hear Ben talk about Wicked Ones. It's a great interview. Ben's a really great guy. We're in the same time zone, so we're both more coherent than we probably would have been had we been doing morning and night. Oh, and one thing I forgot to announce on the main cast, I will be talking to Andre, who runs Sweden Rolls, the podcast, the AP, the actual play podcast, Sweden Rolls. I will be, because of Matt. Thank you, Matt. Thanks to Matt's bringing us together. We're going to do an interview talking about Dragons and Demons and Swedish roleplay on. It'll be tomorrow evening my time, so I'm not. Yeah, it'll probably get turned around early next week. That interview as well. So thank you so much, Matt. Andreas, yes, Andreas of Sweden Rolls. So that'll be great. Yeah, thank you so much, Matt, for making that connection. I'd chatted a couple of times, just a few words back and forth, and Andreas is a really nice guy. So it's very good. I'm so curious about their experience with that system. So nice. And that time difference isn't so brutal. It's only, I think, 7 hours. So we can do morning and night as opposed to too early and too late. So very cool. All right. So thanks again, Matt, for all of your hard work. You're kicking out the bots. You're telling us we don't have audio. You're setting up interviews. Well, you're gonna have to. We're gonna have to start giving you a percent because I think everything that you do is it's much appreciated. Thank you so much for helping out what we're doing here. So take care, everyone. Abyss and Unknown Girl and Matt, of course. We will be back again next week, and I'll talk to you soon, Matt, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in this climactic adventure. Yes, Matt's gonna get paid. We got to get a Matt tier. Bring Matt on full-time tier on the Patreon. All right. So yeah, everyone, have a good weekend and take care. Stay safe. Don't go to any conventions if you don't have to, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.